What's up guys? In today's video I'm going to teach you and I'm going to show you how to create an RSI bot with MQL5. MQL5 is the language of MetaTrader 5 and you know that this is great because you can do a great back testing and you can check if your strategy works or not. So this time we are going to use the RSI indicator and with this you are going to be able to use it. So, first things first, what is the first thing that we need to do in order to use the RSI indicator? First, we need to create a handler. So, for example, we are going to create an integer variable. Well, the handler always has to be an integer. And we are going to create an integer variable and we are going to call it RSI H. So, this is going to be the handler of the RSI. And yeah, we need also an array to store the data that the RSI has. So for example, the RSI is a line and we need the values of that line. So we need somewhere to store that data. And that place is going to be this array double that we are going to basically call RSI. So now we have here the place in which we store the values, and here we have the handler of the indicator. So now that we have this, we have to initialize all this, but you have to know and you have to also see that with the MetaTrader bots, the way they work is with events and this kind of function. So the first event that we are going to see is called onInit. And this event happens only when you start the bot. So whenever the bot starts, we are going to initialize all these values. So in order to declare that function, we have to first put int, let me check because I have it here and I don't want to be wrong, on init, and this is the one, and we put this, so it doesn't receive any parameters here. And yeah, what we are going to basically do now is to first initialize the handler and then we are going to initialize the array. So to initialize the handler, we have to say that okay, the handler is going to be equal to, and now we are going to go to the documentation with F1. If you press F1, you open this thing and here you have the documentation. So now we are going to search the function that will give us the handler for the RSI. And the name of this function is called IRSI and is this one. So it is telling us that we need an string which is going to be the symbol that we are going to use in this market, the periods that we are going to use, also the configuration of the RSI. So for example, here we have to say how many periods do we want to set for the RSI, and here we have to say in which part of the candle we want to apply the indicator. So now we are going to apply this in the close. So let's use the function, and in order to do that, first we put this, and we have to remember that now we have to put the symbol in which we want to operate and in which we want the bot to work. And for that, it is very simple. You just have to use this variable, and this variable is very useful because it will take the value of the current symbol that you are using. So for example, if you are in the euro versus dollar and you want to initialize your bot there, the bot will automatically take the euro versus dollar and put that in that symbol variable. So the same happens with the period. You may have a lot of periods, and if you put your bot in a specific period, it will take that period and it will put it in that variable. Let me check now what is the usual value of the RSI by loading the RSI. So for example, we go to here. Let me check. This will be very quick. RSI, and basically the typical value of the RSI is 14. So what we are going to do now is that the number of periods are going to be 14, and last we are going to apply this on the close. So we have to put here price close, And that's it. We now have initialized the handler, but we also need to initialize this array so it shows the data in a decent way. For that, we have the function array set as series, and we have to say that here we are going to use the double RSI, that I forgot that this was an array, and we have to put this. And also we have to put this to true. I have here some code that I did before and I don't want to be wrong. And yeah, you just have to call this in this way and it will work. But we can check what this function does in the documentation, and we can put here array set as series. And if we double click in this function, we will check and we will know what the function does. So we have created the on init function, but we now have to return one last thing, which is init succeed. Init succeeded. So now we truly have finished this first function, which is the onInit function. So now every time you create a bot with this strategy, what you are going to do, well, what the bot is going to do in the first moment is to use this function and to do this, like initialize this handler, initialize the array, etc. But we want now the bot to work on every tick, so all the time, like we want the bot to work all the time, and we can do that by making it work on every change of the price, on every tick. So for that, we have also another method, which is the onTick. So let me, this one. So it doesn't receive any parameters and this doesn't return anything. So now the first thing that we have to do is to load the values of the RSI. And for that we have to use the function copy buffer. And how do we use the function copy buffer? We go to here to the documentation and we put copy buffer. And here we have the function, and it also illustrates you how to use that. But you have here a lot of information. So first, it is telling us that you need the handler that you want to take the information from. You need the buffer number of buffer of the indicator. Yeah, so this variable is, for example, the RSI doesn't have two values. Like for example, the MACD has two values, and you have to say, hey, you want the value 0, the signal, or the value 1, the MACD. So in this case, you just put a 0 because the RSI only has one value. Then you have to say that, for example, you want the last tick, like you want to start taking ticks from the last one, or you may want to start taking ticks from the previous one, or the previous of the previous, etc. Remember that the last tick is the tick 0. So if you put there a 0, you will take the last tick the last candle that is moving. Like this candle is moving because it's not closed. This one is the last one. But if you track the previous one, this one doesn't move and the other one is moving. So this is the 0, this is the 1, this is the 2, and so on. Now you have to say here how many of them you want to take, and finally you have to put the array in which you want to put that. So let's use the function, and we know that we have to put copy buffer, the indicator handler, which is going to be the RSIH. Then we have to put the buffer number. Remember, this is a 0 because RSI only has one value. And for example, now we have to put the starting position of the RSI, and we want to use the one which is not moving, like not this one, not the first one, but the previous one. So for that, we are going to put here a 1. Also, we want to be taking like, I don't know, 3 values, but we are only going to use 1. Another thing is that we now have to put the RSI array in which we are going to store all the values. So now on every change of the price, this array is going to be updated. And now in this function, we can check if the conditions of our strategy meet in order to open an operation. So for example, let's check first the buy. So in order to check first the buy, we are going to create an if, and we are going to say if the last value of the RSI, which is the RSI 0, is bigger than, for example, 0.7, we are going to open a by operation. So here we are going to put by. Else if, because we need another condition, else if the RSI, the last value, is less than 0.3, we are going to open a sell position. And with this, we will have created the logic behind the strategy. As you can see, the logic is very simple. But if we now want to open operations, we need something which is a special library that will allow us to open the operations. This library is called ctrade. So what we can do now is to put include, let me check that I put this correctly, trade, now trade.mqh, and with this you will have included the code to be able to open operations. But in order to open operations, you need a special object from the class ctrade, which is declared like this. You put here ctrade, and for example, you can call this trade. So this object is the one that we are going to use in order to open operations and to, basically opening them. So now that we have all that information, we need to open operations. But in order to open operations, we need a lot of things. For example, whenever we want to open the buy operation, we need the ask price. And whenever we want to sell, we need the bid price. So in order to take those values, what we can do is that here locally, we can create another variable called ask. Let me put this, and here we can create another local variable for this if, which is going to be called bid. So what we can do here to obtain the value of the ask is that first take the symbol info double, and with this function you have to put here the symbol in which you want to take the information, and then say, hey, I want the ask. So with this we will take the ask, but this function returns a format that is not very nice with double. So I recommend you using normalize double, and now here you put digits, and with this it will work without issues. And now we have to do the same for the bid, but in this case we have to change several things, such as, for example, symbol bid. And now we have obtained the data that we need in order to open an operation, which was the ask and the bid. But now we need to open that operation. So do you remember this object that we created before? Now we are going to use it. So we say trade by, and now the arguments of this function are first the volume, the lottage that you want to use, then the symbol in which you want to operate, then the current price, which is in case of a buy the ask, in case of a sell the sell, then the stop loss, the take profit, and finally a comment in which you can put whatever you want. So the lottage, we are going to put, for example, 0.1, and the symbol, remember, we can use this variable, so we are going to use the current symbol of the chart, then the price, which is the one we already have taken, and finally the stop loss, which, for example, is 40 points under the ask price, the current price. And in order to put it 40 points under the ask price, what we can do is that, okay, I'm going to subtract 40, but remember that you cannot subtract 40, you have to subtract it in points. So you multiply this 40 by points, and you are going to take the number of points of that current chart. Like, you are going to take the value of each point in the chart. So you will remove just 40 points. Now, another thing is that we have to put the take profit, and in this case we are going to put 80, for example. Don't think that this strategy may work, because this is very simple, so I just want to show you how to create this RSI bot. But yeah, don't think that this will be something crazy. A comment, but if you want to put a comment, put it, but I don't usually put it, so I put this. No. And yeah, we are finished. This is the way to create a buy, and if we want to create a sell, we have to just do the same. So for example, I can take this and copy this here, change this to sell, and yeah, now we have to change the ask for bid. So here we are going to change that, and here I forgot that this is not less, this is plus, because in a buy the take profit is above and the stop loss is below, but in a sell the stop loss is above and the take profit is below. So knowing that, we have to put here a plus and we have to put here a less. So you just have to know that the symbols change, like here you put a plus, you have to put the other thing, etc. So now we have created a functional bot, but the problem of this bot is the following. So let me check if everything compiles. Okay, everything compiles. And in order to test it, what you can do is that here in the tester strategy, you will have a tester strategy panel here. You have to go to the bot that you already have created. And let me check because I don't know the name of the bot. Okay, I'm stupid. And I call this MACD because it was from another file, but let me create this very fast. You have to press here on new, then new expert advisor, put here RSI, don't create anything, and delete all this, and yeah. So I forgot to do this, and yeah, sorry. But this is how you create a trading bot. You have to press here and remember all the things I did. I will put this at the beginning of the video so you will see this twice. So once we have this created, we can continue testing the strategy, and if we go back here, we should have a strategy called RSI in advisors that we created, but I'm not seeing that because maybe I don't have saved anything. So you have to compile it, and now if I check, here it is. Finally. So we are going to use 15-minute chart, the euro versus dollar, and we are basically putting 3 months, I think. So yeah, if we press now here on start, you can see that this is creating a lot of operations. And by the way, I don't know if these operations have been created in the correct place, because we said that whenever is less than 30 it should create one, and whenever is above than 70 it should create another one. But first of all, let's fix this problem with too many positions. So how do we fix this? What we can do is that we can create a flag in order to say, hey, if operation is open, you cannot create another one. And how do we do that? Very simple. Let's create a variable called, let's call it, well, it is going to be a bool, and let's call it open, no, it is going to be, let's create a variable called ticket in which we are going to store the ticket of the trade. So for example, this variable needs to be u long, and here we are going to put trade ticket, and this is the ticket of each trade. So how do we take the ticket of each trade? Whenever you call the trade buy, you can also call, let's put here that trade ticket is going to be equal to trade result order. So with this function you obtain the ticket, and the same thing can happen with, oh wow, I don't know what I'm doing. Give me 1 second. You can take this, put it here, and now the trade ticket can be like this. So another thing that we have to change now is that, for example, we have to put that the condition needs to be that, hey, trade ticket is less or equal than 0, which will mean that no operation is open whenever you try to open another one. So if we put this, the bot should know that, hey, we cannot create another operation at this time, but we also need to initialize this to 0, which is just putting this. So now we have to reset at what moment this variable, and which moment do we need to reset this variable. We need to reset this variable only when an operation has been closed. So what we can do is that on every tick we can check if the operation that we opened is closed. And for that, what we can do is to say, hey, if position select by ticket and sending him the ticket, like we are going to send this function the ticket, we are going to put here trade ticket. If this is equal to false, it means that there's no position open, and we can do this trade ticket equal to 0. So this means that, for example, imagine that we have an open operation. The trade ticket has a value bigger than 0. So this condition is not going to allow to open a buy or a sell. So now we have to check if the operation has been closed, because if it has been closed, this is going to be false. Like this condition is going to be false, and here we are going to reset the value. So if we compile, and let me try to execute this again, if we compile and execute this again, as you can see, there are way less calls than there were before, but we still have problems with the RSI value because this is creating too many calls, like too many operations. It shouldn't do that. Let me check why this is happening, because I think that maybe, so yeah, I already know what is happening, and is that this is not 0.7, this is 70, and this is 30. So if we put here this, it should work now. So now let's compile and let's check again what is the output of this code. And you can see that now only here at these places is when the bot is opening positions. Why? Because we are under the 30, and this is or should only open by positions. But I think that this is doing the other thing. So we have to put here that only when this is bigger than 30 and this is bigger than 70, so when this is less than 30, it will open by positions, because now we were opening sell positions, and that's it. So as you can see, you will have errors and mistakes, and you have to know how to fix them, but it's very easy. So now if we open the tester again, we should see that the op bot works fine. So for example, here it has created a position that it should have been created. So for example, here the value went down and it created a buy position. And if we go back to, oh wow, here it created a lot of positions, but what we can do, this is happening because the value of the RSI was a lot of time under this threshold, which was the condition. So yeah, the condition was saying, okay, create all the ones you want, but if there isn't another one open, you cannot create them. So while there was not another one open, the bot was creating positions. So how do we fix that? We can put a timer to say, hey, whenever you open an operation, you need to also check that this time has passed. So in order to do that, you are going to see that it's very simple. And in this case, you can really use a bool. So for example, we are going to create a bool variable called time passed. And this is going to be set to true. So we can open an initial operation. And here we have to put another condition, which will be time passed equals true. And with this condition, we are saying that only when the time passes, we are going to put this to true. But also we have to change the value of this variable whenever we open a position. Otherwise, this condition will be met always. So we are going to put here time passed equals false. And here, what we are going to put is the same thing. So now, whenever we open a position, we put this to false, and we don't allow this to open another position unless the time we want has passed. But hey, where do I say which time I want to pass, and where do I put this to true? Because when the time passes, I need to put this to true. Okay, what we need to do now is to use another function called onTimer. So we need to create this void onTimer, and this is kind of another event, and whenever a timer that we are going to set happens, the code inside here is going to be executed. So for example, here time passed can be equal to true, and yeah, we are resetting the value. But now we have to set the timer. How do we set the timer? We put here event set timer, and now here, for example, let's say that I want that, okay, you opened a position, I want that at least 5 candles have passed until you can open another one. For that, we need to know the value of our period. So for example, there's a function called period seconds that will return the number of seconds that has a period. So for example, here we put the period current, and now, for example, if we are in the 15-minute chart, it will give us 15 minutes in second. So for example, as I said, I want 5 candles, so I have to multiply this by 5. And now we are really finished. We have created an RSI bot. So let's check this and let's check how does this work. So if I press here on start, you are going to see that, look here, for example, it opened, like there's a lot of time here that there are operations, but for example here, it opened this operation and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, until this one is not going to open another one. The same happens with this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this. For example, this one, it opens here, remember, opens, not closes, opens, so it opens here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it continues. And as you can see, the bot is not giving any profit, so don't expect anything because it's a very simple bot. So if you check the backtest, you can see, I don't know, here, you can check how does the performance of the bot work. And for example, if you want to make this test longer, what you can do is that, for example, we can move this here, and what we are going to do, I don't know what I to every tick. So what we are going to do is to not put the visual mode, so this is faster, and we are only going to check this. And as you can see with this, the balance of the account with this bot is going down, so this bot is not profitable. But now you know how to do an RSI bot. So if you understood how to create an RSI bot in MQL5, give it a like, share, subscribe, and see you in the next one.
Ay.